There's a theory that says if we don't pay ransoms, the crime doesn't pay and therefore will eventually cease. And while this may be true, when you are the victim, it ends up being very simply a business decision. And it was actually covered quite well in the Malicious Life Cybersecurity History podcast, episode 226, alongside a game theory analysis. But what we do see now is this, that there's 4 countries that have declared that they won't pay ransomware anymore. While this is a great news story as far as commitment from government goes around the world, it leaves no obligation to any business that's going to be ransomed in those countries. So it remains to be seen whether it will have any impact in the cybercrime world. Okta, after its latest security incident and report, gets a little bit of criticism from journalists that say, well, it's not just an issue with an employee. If one employee can cause this, there has to be some responsibility taken from an executive point of view. And we would argue that a deeper dive in this reminds us that multi-factor authentication isn't possible on a service account, and it's always the weak link that gets applied to an attack chain. Here's a serious story that has registered with C-suite folks around the world, and the lack of proper security budget, which is often cited as the reason why CISOs can't get their work done, might actually be changing as far as a move towards decisions that allow us to make better security choices going forward after CISOs are now held to account in this way. And Microsoft is overhauling its software security. After many decades of operational awareness of threats, it's amazing that security today is still relegated as an afterthought all the time in most companies. But we're slowly realizing that that is not the best strategy. We ought to start thinking security first. And in our last story, QNAP warns us of an update that's required because of critical command injection flaws that are possible in its apps. Now, QNAP has survived as a company over past security issues and has become a more proactive company when it comes to responding to vulnerability reports. And as always, if your QNAP isn't exposed to the internet to begin with, then your risk is internal and minimal. But if it is internet facing, then it's a 9.8 out of 10. And did you know that Steve Gibson of Security Now podcast introduced Atom Networks to his audience last Tuesday? And here's a link to the show notes and the YouTube link to the starting point where he shares what his thoughts are around Atom One. Thanks for watching. See you next week.